Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call us right now for more help at 866-945-8070. Create a customer and price matrix in Microsoft Excel. Now first, why might you want to do this? Well, this comes from something I actually did and spent hours figuring out how to do, which I'm going to show you how to do in, 20 minutes or less, probably. It's something I had to do for a client many years ago. The guy had a deli meat route. He would deliver deli meats to different delis around the Tri-City area over in New York, where I grew up. And he inherited this meat route from somebody else who sold it to him. And over the years, that guy had evolved a system where, because some customers were with him for a long time, they had older pricing on the same things, and newer customers were paying newer, higher prices. So the bottom line was he needed something where he could easily create a matrix, which is what I did for him, that allowed him to look up a customer and a product and cross-reference the two to find out what the right rate was that he was supposed to charge that person. And he needed something that could help him do it on the fly really quickly. And he wasn't going to, he wasn't the sort of guy who's going to get into accounting software. He needed something that was easy for him to use. So we came up with the idea of using a spreadsheet. And here's what I came up with. So the first thing is, let's create kind of the form, the end result. I need to look up a customer and I need to look up a product, right? And then when I look those two up, I'm going to need to get a price, okay? So that's the basic form that we'll need to create. Let's widen these columns up a bit so that we have some space. So in order to populate this, and let's just call this price form, we're going to need to create an index. I'll fix my typo there. So now let's create the price matrix, right? Because that's what we'll need to do ultimately. So over here, we're going to have some customers, right? We'll start just very generically. Over here, we're going to have some products. Again, just nice and generic. Okay, and now what we're going to want to do is build the pricing matrix. So I prepared off screen and off recording something just to get this done quickly. So I'm going to paste these numbers in. This is all very generic. What you'll be able to do is create this if you follow along with the video. And by all means, please, because some people complain sometimes that I go too fast, pause the video. Like if you've gotten to this point, what you should probably do is pause the video, open up Excel. And by the way, all of this works exactly the same way in Google Sheets. So if you're inclined to, do it in Google Sheets. That'll make it easier to collaborate and share it with people if you need to. So stop the video and get caught up. Lay out exactly what I've laid out for you so far. And then once you've got a spreadsheet that looks exactly like mine, resume the video and go on to the next step, right? So we've got a basic matrix done. The only thing I want to do actually is I want to push these down one row, and you'll see why later. So let's do that actually across the board here. Shift cells down. Okay. So we've got the matrix built. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to number these in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you'll see why. This has to do with how we're going to be able to do our lookups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, I hit the wrong thing. All right, these don't need to be bolded. We'll center them to make them look a little prettier. And we're going to write a formula, and just to test it, I'm going to say I want to grab what's in row 2, column 3, right? So we'll go out here to the price form, and for now I'm just going to put row and column, right? And we want row 2, column 3. And just to check, we're looking for a result of $4. I purposely built this matrix so that there's no two numbers that are the same, so that it will, that way when we're testing it, we know for sure that it's working. And for this, let's put customer 2 in here. And for the product, it's going to be product 3. And not that this matters yet, but ultimately this is the data we're going to want to be putting in here to look up the price. So here's how we look up the price. It's a formula in Excel called index, so equals. index, and it's going to want the row number and the column number, right? So first, we have to tell it where are we looking for this stuff, and that's going to be in our price matrix. So equals index, open parentheses, and it's asking for an array, right? So where's that array going to be? Well, it's going to be here. So I'm going to click and drag and highlight. I'm not including these numbers. These are, you'll see what these are for in a minute. So I'm just highlighting the range exactly that's got my prices in them. And it needs to be only that range because when I say row 2, column 3, it needs to know that this is exactly where row 2 starts and this is exactly where column 3 starts and so on. So it has to be exact, right? And then we're going to say comma 2, comma 3, right? Just put the numbers in there to make sure it works. And sure enough, it gets me my price of $4, right? So let's test to make sure it didn't work by a fluke. Let's change it to row 4, column 2. We're going to change it to 4 and 2. So I'm just going to go right back into my formula, put in a 4, put in a 2. $4.10, $4.10. I did get two prices the same, actually, as it turns out. So we'll change this so I know this was row 4, column 2, not 22. Okay, so now we're ready to actually make this a little bit more dynamic. Really what I need to do, and this is going to go away, I'm just putting this up here for reference so you can see what's really going on behind the scenes here, right? Row 4 and 2. Now I can make this equal to these, but that's not dynamic enough. I want to be able to look up a customer and a product, so I can just add a customer to the drop down here and have it all work sort of automatically. So let's first of all get rid of the bold and clear this. So I want to create drop downs for both customer and product. So now we're going to do something, and again, if you've gotten up to this point and you haven't done so yet, pause the video and get caught up with where I'm at, right? Because now what I want to do is something, and we're going to shift gears. I want to use a feature of Excel called data validation, right? So instead of just letting you type something, because if you type something and you get a typo, you're not going to get the right result. It has to be exact. So I want to create a drop down where somebody can choose the customer from the drop down, right? And I want that drop down to essentially pull from this information. So that's what we're going to create here. So while I've got this cell selected, we're going to go up to data, and we're going to go to data validation and data validation once again. And it's going to ask me what I want. Data validation means I'm validating what data goes into that cell. So I want it to be a list. And over here I can click on source, and this little dialog launcher means I want to go sort of browse to it and select it myself. So that's where my customers come from, is this particular list, right? So I'm going to select that. I can hit my enter key now to confirm and click OK. And now I've got a drop down that shows me whatever's in that list, right? And I can actually copy and paste this, and it will paste that validation down. So I can use this on multiple rows if I want to. Now we're going to do the exact same thing for the product. So again, we're going to go to data validation and data validation again. And again, we're going to choose list. And for the source, this time it's going to be these guys. Right? And so you can do it either vertically or horizontally. And if I hit enter, it just confirms and click OK. And now I've got my data validation here, and I can copy and paste that down a few rows. Right? So now it's all here. So now I've got the ability to select customer. So we wanted 4 for the row, which is the customer, and we wanted 2 for the product, which is the price. So now the challenge is to get this to work dynamically so it's looking up a customer. And when it looks up customer 4, we want it to find this number 4. We can't pull it out of here. Theoretically, we can, but remember, this isn't always going to say customer 4. It's going to say Joe Smith or whoever, right? So we want it to be able to look up the customer that we've chosen and pull in the correct number from the matrix, right? So customer 4 or whatever goes in here is going to be row 4. So let's do that. But the way I like to do this initially, rather than go edit this formula, because that can start getting really complicated, is I'm going to write separate formulas. All I need to do to get a number out of this is a simple VLOOKUP. So let's do that here. Let's say equals VLOOKUP. And what am I looking for? I'm looking for whatever's there, comma, where am I looking for it? I want to go to my price matrix, and I want to select this entire range now. That includes both the customer and the numbers I've put here. right? So I'm looking for it in this range. When it finds a match, and it always has to be that column 1 would be where it would find the match, then column 2 is where I want it to pull the result from. And that's the next piece of the formula. So we're still in here writing the formula. So it's going to look up B3 from the price form tab. It's looking it up in the price matrix, comma 2, because the result is going to be in the second column of that range, the range being from B4 here down to C8 over here. Okay, B4 to C8. So comma 2, comma, and then we need one more piece called false, which just tells it only give me a result if you find an exact match. And that sort of ensures that we don't get typos. So notice that gave me the result of 4, the exact result I was looking for. And now I can change this. And if I change this to 3, I get a 3. So you always want to test these things and make sure that it's working. Okay, so let's leave that at 4. And now we need to do the same thing for the products, but the products works differently, right? It's not, this is vertical, right? That's why we have a VLOOKUP, which is a vertical lookup. This is horizontal. So we need a horizontal lookup, and there's a formula for that called HLOOKUP. So let's put that here, equals HLOOKUP, and it works the exact same way as the VLOOKUP. It's just doing it in a different shape. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for whatever's here for the product, comma. Where am I looking for it? I'm looking for it here in this range, and now I'm pulling the result from the second row instead of from the second column. So the same thing, comma 2, comma false, I want only an exact match. Oops, somehow it changed that on me. Let's fix that. If you put true in there, it will pull in partial matches. You definitely don't want that in a case like this. Now let's test our formula, make sure it's working. Change this to a 5, change this to a 1. All right, pretty sure that works. Now it's going to be really easy to update this formula because all we need to do is take the formula from here and update it into the appropriate position under the price. Take the formula from here, again, update it to the appropriate position on the price, which we've got set up very easily with these numbers, right? Here we just put hard numbers. We're going to replace them with the formulas exactly as they appear here. And here's how that works. So I'm going to click on the 4 first, and the 4 here, the formula, we're going to copy everything but the equal sign. We don't need the equal sign because we're going to be pasting it inside of a formula that's already got the equal sign. So I'll hit escape. Again, I'm copying everything but the equal sign. Control C to my clipboard, then hit escape. Then I want to go into this formula, and all I've got to do is highlight that number 4 and then press Control V to paste. Right? And notice it still works, but now let's test it because now it should work dynamically when I change this to customer 2. It changes this to customer 2. These I'm done with. And it looks up the price of $6.40. So let's see if row 2, column 2 is $6.40. Row 2, column 2, $6.40. So that's definitely working. Now we just have to do the same thing with the HLOOKUP. And the HLOOKUP in this case is going to replace the number 2 here. Right? So let's do that. Again, we copy everything in the formula except for the equal sign. Control C. Hit escape to get out of the edit mode of editing that formula. We go into here to edit this formula. We highlight the number 2 and we press Control V to paste that whole HLOOKUP. So you can start to see if you look at this formula now, it would have been a pain in the neck at the least, downright difficult at the worst, to write a formula directly like this. So you can see the way I'm having you do this is to build on it incrementally, which makes it infinitely simple to write these formulas because we're doing a lot of what's called nesting. We're putting formulas inside of formulas to get a really powerful and dynamic result. And now this is completely dynamic. Let's go to products 1. We get a result of $8. Row 2, column 1. Let's see what that looks like. Row 2, column 1. Sure enough, $8. So now I can get rid of all this. I don't need it anymore. That was just like a worksheet, right? And now we want to be able to, in case we were doing like an estimate for a customer, we want to be able to do this across multiple rows, right? So first of all, let's just copy this all down just so we make sure we've got that validation in there. And let's also change the names. So let's go to the price matrix, and I'm going to put Seth David, right? I'll be a customer. My friend Mike Russo is top of mind because we've been having a funny conversation on Facebook. I will put Katie Peterson, who's a good friend of mine who works at Intuit. Who else can I stick in here? I just want generic names. Joe Smith, John Holmes. Okay, and then for products, I'm just going to copy and paste something in here that I've prepared so you don't have to sit here watching me type stuff. And it also it'll show you how easily this is now to update it sort of dynamically. So if I go back to my price form, the formula crashes because it no longer sees customer 2 and product 1, but it will see Seth David and oranges. And now it looks up the price of $8. Now the next thing I want to do is copy this formula down. But before I do that, I have to make sure that certain ranges are held constant, right? For example, this range that it's looking at for the price matrix, which is from D4 over to H8, that whole range needs to remain constant when I copy this formula down. And if I don't do something, looking at just that price matrix part, D4 to H8, if I copy this downward, 4 is going to become 5, H is going to become 9, and so on as I copy it down. So I need to hold this range constant, and the way we do that is by putting dollar signs in front of each part of the reference. So dollar sign on the D for the column, dollar sign on the 4 for the row, dollar sign on the H for the column, dollar sign on the 8 for the row. And I need to do that in each place where that price matrix range appears. So we're just going to do that really quick. And even these lookup ranges all need to remain constant, right? So that always has to stay the same. Now, what isn't going to stay the same is B and C. These columns will always be the same. I'm not too worried about that because I'm copying them down and not to the right. But the row number, so B3, I do want to become B4 as I copy this down. So the 3 is going to be left alone. The B, I can put a dollar sign in front of that to hold that constant, and same with the C, right? As I copy this down, I want, in case I did for some reason copy it to the right, I wouldn't want columns B and C to change to C and D and then D and E and so forth, right? So that's what I need to hold constant there. Let's copy that down. Let's copy these down to make sure we get a consistent result. Let's change it to make sure it works. I'm going to go to the last customer and the last product, and it gets a result of 41 cents. And we have a result of 41 cents. So now I know this works, and I can copy and paste this down, and now I can get a whole bunch of estimates. If I'm selling Mike Russo some nectarines, he's going to get charged $2.40. But if I sell Katie Peterson those same nectarines, she's only getting charged $1.92. So now you see how this comes together and how this works. Sorry for such a long video, but I wanted to go through this slowly and comprehensively and make sure that it was really clear. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, wow, Seth, this is pretty advanced stuff, you're right. It is pretty advanced stuff. So if you want to get caught up and learn incrementally how to do a bunch of stuff in Excel so that you can get caught up and get to the point where you can really learn something like this, then come over to my website and sign up for this, the $25 monthly subscription. It's right here under subscription-based training, and I have a basic Excel course right now rolling out, and after that we're going to do an intermediate and an advanced course. And you're going to learn incrementally everything you would need to know that would lead up to the point where you could actually really effectively learn and understand how to write a formula and create a pricing matrix just like this. For now, you can simply follow along and just follow it sort of mechanically without necessarily understanding the concept. But when you're done with the Excel courses that I'm rolling out on my website, you'll be able to understand how to do this conceptually, and that's the key. Because when you understand how to do this conceptually, then you'll be able to use this concept and apply it in many, many, many other use cases. And that's the name of the game here, is I want to give you the tools and the resources that you need so that you can take this stuff and learn it and run with it and use it to create and improve your own lives and the lives of your clients. That, my friends, is everything I have for you on creating a customer and price matrix in Microsoft Excel. And once again, remember, all of this works exactly the same way in Google Sheets. So do it, try it. Like I've said throughout the video, pause it at certain points. Make sure you can get your spreadsheet caught up to working and looking exactly as mine does. And if you follow that process from the beginning to the end of the video, yes, you might spend a half an hour, maybe even an hour doing it, but you'll do it and you'll get it and it'll work. And as always, if you have questions, you know how to find me. Reach out to me. The contact form on my website, Seth@nerdenterprises.com. any number of places on the web. If you do happen to be watching this on YouTube, just go into the description of this video and you'll find a link right over to the blog post with the complete write-up. And of course, then you'll be in my world where you can easily reach out to me and contact me. You can certainly post comments below right on YouTube as well. And I respond to all of these things and I get to them and I get back to you with answers as quickly as I possibly can. As always, I hope you had some fun here, learned something along the way. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.